going on, everybody? I am your host, Cameron, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to add sound to your 5 minutes to Freddy's fan game. I don't need to go in depth on sound like I usually do with all these other tutorials because it's fairly basic. We all know what sound is. We all know how important sound is to literally anything, but especially FNaF and horror games where sound is a key necessity to scaring the player. It's obviously important to have sound in your game. Plus, it makes your game just 1,000 times better, no matter what. But that's besides the point. So we might as well just get right into it. We don't need to make a whole little introduction to sound. But for this tutorial, I just said I wasn't going to do a whole little introduction, and I literally am doing that. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to be showing you guys how to make it so if you press a button, it plays a sound. At the start of the frame, you could have a sound that just plays automatically, like a phone call, for example. Or additionally, at the start of the night, if you have like ambience that plays throughout the whole night, I'll show you how to loop that, and that's about it. Now, I learned sound just by myself because sound, I was like, I want to add sound, but there's not a lot of tutorials out there for sound. And it's both one of the more confusing things and one of the least confusing things, so that's why I wanted to make a tutorial on it. But that's besides the point. Let's get right to it. Additionally, this is the last side tutorial, so I'm going out with a bang. But anyway, let's go over to our night 1 to start with, because night 1 is probably going to be the easiest way to do this because it has like literally talk about. So let's just go over to our night 1 and let's go to our event editor. We're really not going to add in a lot of code. It's pretty much just adding in sound to code we already have. I want to get rid of this for a little later. But this is pretty much just, this is where everything's going to happen at. You don't have to add in like a sound file here to your like canvas. All of it's going to be done in here, which is it's very just close quarters, if you know what I mean. But let's say at the start of the night, actually no, we'll do the left light because that's going to be easier. So let's say I want to run the frame and I'm like, man, I want my light button to make a sound. I want my light button to make a sound whenever I click it, you know what I mean? So to do that, to just make it a really easy light button sound, you want to go over to user clicks on left button, or on both light buttons. Go over to sound. What are you guys doing? These guys are being loud. I hope that doesn't get into the video. Go over to sound, right click, samples, play sample. Now, samples are basically your music files and your sound files, which I'm pretty sure there is there's music down here, but I have never touched any of these because you can just do everything in samples, which is really nice. It's a really nice thing about Clickteam and sounds is that it's pretty much does everything for you. So, but anyway, just go back to play sample, and you'll be met with this screen that says play sample at the top. Now, the thing about this is, to the right, you'll see this samples bar right here. And obviously, if you have no sounds in there at all, if you've loaded in no sounds, there should be nothing here, which pretty much should be all of you guys that have nothing here. Now, I obviously have stuff here because I've tried to record this tutorial many, many, many times. So obviously, I have stuff here already, but obviously I want to add in a phone guy, right? And since nothing's going to be here for you guys, you want to go from a file and browse. And I already have a whole folder for my sound effects, which I would strongly recommend you guys do as well. I would just add a file, not a file. I would add a folder in your asset folder that has your sound effects in it because it's a lot more manageable. I just find it really easy to just do that, where there's just a folder where your sound effects are, everything's organized in there automatically, and I just like it a lot better. But anyway, once you have your sound effects already, obviously you want to go over to your button sound effect because you want to be able to press your button and you want your button to play sound. And I already have a button sound effect, and I'm like, okay, well I want to hear it, you know what I mean? So after you have that, press open. And then if you load up the night and then you press the light button, it plays a sound effect. And obviously it won't play a sound effect when I actually close the light, when I darken the light, when I just unactivate it. But when I activate it, it plays a sound. And get that same sound whenever it deactivates. So I just want to go over and drag down this play sample button to my other user clicks on the light button sound effect. Right. So then I go over and then I press a button. Cool. And I unpress it. Awesome. But let's say that, oh, it's pretty loud. It's a pretty loud button sound effect, right? So let's say it's that loud. Well, we're going to go back up to our play sample button, and I will actually get rid of this for now. Go over to your check mark that says play sample button, or button sound effect, or whatever you have as your button name, and go right click, sample, and let's say set sample volume, which is basically just set your music volume, set your sound effect volume, press sample volume, and then your button should be automatically here in samples, and then press OK. And then let's say 20. 20 is pretty quiet, but let's see how we like it. So once you have that, run the frame, and let's see. Okay, it's still pretty loud, but it's not out, so maybe I want to change it so that the volume of my button is instead 8. How about that? So if it's 8, let's see, and let's press a button. That's quieter. That's better, in my opinion. Once you have that, maybe you want to add in a little sound effect. Oh, I did not mean to press that. Maybe you want to add it in so that it plays on the left side of your office. For example, if you're playing with headphones, you don't want to hear your button on the right side of, on your right earphone, right? So maybe you only want to hear the light button sound effect on your left earbud, right? So a way to do this as well is you can go back to your check mark, go right click, samples, set sample pan, which is pretty much where do you want to hear your audio specifically. And if you press that and then press your button, this will be the next screen that you see, which is at the top it should say -100 full left, 100 full right, 0 center. And knowing that information, you can kind of estimate where you want your button sound effect to play. And for me, I want it to be on the left side of my office, but not a full left, you know what I mean? I want it to kind of be on the left, but not a full left. So I'm going to make a rough estimate and say, maybe let's try -35, right? Let's try -35. I gotta move these two closer together. So let's say -35. Let's see that's a good pan. And then if I load up the night and I press the button, it's a little better. It's close to the left now. I can definitely hear it in my left, but it's not that far to the left. So maybe I'll go back and I go right click, edit, set pan of sample, whatever your file name is, to -35. And maybe I make it -55. And I'll try that out. And then if I listen to it, okay, that's more my style. That's more my style. It's more to the left. It makes more sense to me, right? And once you're happy with that, apply that same code to your other user clicks on light button. And you can also apply it down here to the right light as well, for your right light button. But in this case, if you go over and you press your right light button, it's going to be playing on the left. That doesn't make sense. Makes sense. So then you want to go back to your right light, go right click, edit, set pan volume, set pan of sample, whatever your name is, to -55. And this time we'll apply it and say 55, which means it's far to the right now. And then if you load that up and you press the right button, it makes more sense. And obviously if this all works and you're happy with the right light, then you apply that to your other right light code right down here. But let's say that I want my light to make sound, you know what I mean? I want to be able to hear my light button. I want to hear the sound that comes from it. I want to actually hear the light sound that comes from it. Well, a really easy way to do this is go over to your code here, which I have to remember. What is this? Okay, left hallway. Another left hallway. Okay, yeah. So this is all code from the light, I believe. So no lights. Sorry, I'm keeping check. I haven't messed with this code since like the 4th episode, I'm pretty sure. Okay, yeah, so we can mess with this. So we're gonna be using all 4 of these codes right here because this is when our lights are on. So let's go over to this top one and go right click on sound, sample, but this time instead of just playing the sample, we're going to play and loop the sample. And you might be wondering, why are we gonna play and loop it? Well, we're gonna play and loop this sample because my light sound effect is only like 30 seconds long, and obviously I can't spread that across 6 minutes like multiple times because then it just doesn't sound natural. But if you play and loop it, it kind of does that for you. So instead of it just ending after one time like you do with play sample, it'll play multiple times, all depending on how many times you want it to loop. So that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to go over to play and loop sample, and I'm going to go over to browse because I don't have a light sound effect. And as you can see right here, I have light sound, which will just, it's basically just the light that you hear outside the hallway. And then as soon as you have that, press open or press open or OK. And then you'll be met with this screen right here. So this is pretty much saying how many times do you want your sound file to repeat. And obviously, we can make this repeat multiple times, but you don't have to worry about it because let's say your light sound effect is like 9.5 seconds long. You don't have to make it constantly loop depending on how long your night is. Like, all right, if I get 6 minutes, I can divide that by 9.5 seconds and then get a decimeter of, no, we're not doing that. Clickteam will do it all for you. If you go up here, it'll say 0 is equal to continuous loop, which basically means infinite. It'll repeat infinite times. So obviously that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it repeat infinite times. And I'm going to press OK. But before we continue on, there's a little issue with this. And if I actually go over to run frame, and then I press this light button, as soon as I press this light button, the left hallway light will activate to 1. And if I do that, yeah. So that's the sound that's going to be playing. And obviously that's going to be looping. And you might be wondering, what's going on with this fucking thing from ET like haunting my computer? Not exactly. They're not exactly haunting your computer. Don't worry. But what's happening is it's looping and it's playing, right? But it's kind of hard to explain. But basically, whenever you press this light button, it pretty much knows that you're only pressing it once because there's not a counter that says, or actually, there is. Never mind. But basically, when you press it, it's only a one-time thing. You press it once, it plays one sound effect. You play it again, it plays another sound effect, right? But in this case, it's saying that no matter what, when this left hallway light is equal to 1, it will play the sound, which means that it'll just start playing it a million times. It'll play it infinitely because there's nothing telling it you can't do that. But to make it only play it once, you can go right click, insert, special conditions, limit conditions, only one action when event loops. And this is an absolute godsend when it comes to adding in sound effects, which I really wish I knew earlier when I was starting my game development journey, I guess you could say, because this will only play it once when the event loops, like I said before, which means that if you now activate the left hallway light, it'll only do this once. But if you keep activating it, then it'll keep playing only once. So if I run the frame, and then I go light, as you can see, now it's playing. And that's just generally my sound effect. Like my sound effect is loud and that obnoxious because I don't know, I like it like that. But obviously, if you turn off the light, then it still plays that sound and really what we want. So, if you want to make it not play that sound anymore, you can go over to where it says left hallway light activation is equal to 0, right hallway light activation is set to 0, and go just right click, sample, pause sample. And then you can pause your light sound. And then once you do that, now you go back and you're like, oh, I want to play it. It's going to play it, and then you just, Then you do that. Cool. So now it's pausing the sound effect. And obviously the same issues occur as earlier. One, the pan is not sent to the left, and also it's really, really loud this time. So I want to go over to where it says the left hallway light activation is set to 1. I can go right click, sample, set sample volume of light sound, and I'm gonna say 5. I want to try out 5, see if that's quiet enough. Because the Clickteam volume system is a little weird. I don't know why, because sometimes it's like, alright, I want it to be a little quieter. So I'm gonna set it to 20, and then it's like still loud. I'm like, why are you doing that? But I'm gonna set it to 5. And additionally, I'm gonna go right click, sample, and I'm gonna say set sample pan of light sound to -100, because obviously, like I said before, this is completely to the left now. I want this to play on the left. And if I do that, and I go this, now it's really quiet, but it's to the left. I can barely hear it, but it's to the left. So I'm gonna edit the volume so it's now 25? Yeah, I'm gonna edit it so it's now at 25, and if I play, as you can hear, it's a little louder, but maybe a little louder, you know, it's a little louder than before, but not loud enough. So I'm gonna set it to 50 instead. Let's try that out. And then, okay, that makes more sense to me, right? So it's playing the sound now, and that's what we want, right? And then you can also apply this to left light activation equals 1 as well. So you can just apply that down here as well. And this is just for if Bonnie's at your left door, which, if you are curious, yes, we will be adding in, like, a sound effect when an animatronic is at the door and it plays, like, the spooky noise that, you know, they first play when they're doing their thing. But remember, when you're applying sound like this to a counter, especially, just make sure you also have this only one action, one event loops. And we're also going to apply that here too, because we're going to do the same thing down here as well. But this is just for Bonnie, which is not at our door right now. But then let's say I want to do the same thing for the right side as well. So I will just drag this down too, because this is more easier. And the only difference now that we have to make is just set the sample pan to 100 instead of a -100. So I can go right click, edit, set sample light to 100 now, because it's not -100 no more, it's 100. And you can also just drag this down to your other one as well, because this one is for when you turn on the right light and Chica's not there, and you turn on the right light and Chica is there. So that's the only difference. And then you load it up, you press, there we go. You hear it to the right, you hear it to the left now. Cool. So we already have some sound effects working. And if you want to do the same thing for the doors, you can absolutely do that. The only thing, I don't have a door sound effect. I swear I did. Let me check real quick. But I was going to do that with the doors, but I don't think I have a door slam sound effect. So you might have to do that yourself, but it's really not hard. But that's besides the point. So we have the doors done. We have the light sound effect, which is great. And that's pretty much whenever you click on it and you turn it on. But let's say I want there to be a phone guy that plays at the start of the night automatically, right? So we want to go over to start a frame, sound, right click, sample, and we're going to say play sample, not play in loop, because we only want this phone guy to play once. And obviously I have phone guy down here, but I think he's a little bugged. But obviously if you don't have a phone guy, you can go from a file, browse, and then grab your phone guy sound file. But I already have a phone guy sound file, so I'm going to press that, press OK, and then if I load up the night, phone guy should be automatically playing. Yup. Once again, really loud, and this is like the raw audio of the FNaF 1 phone guy, but you can hear that he's ringing and you can hear that he's playing. Phone guy. But obviously same issues as before, really loud, and unlike the other one, you don't actually have to set the pan, but I'm gonna set the sample volume of my phone guy to just like 45, I guess. And then I play it again, and I'll see how loud that is. Damn, it's still loud. Okay, okay. So maybe I'll just edit it so that is 25 instead. So now see how that is. See, it's perfect. Holy shit, is it not? Why is it's like, doesn't feel quieter, but I swear it is. Maybe that's just only the ringing, because the ring is really loud. And then? Okay. That is a little quieter. I am feeling that's a little quieter, but it's not like 25. So maybe I'll try 0.5 or 0.5. Let me try that. Okay. So I was right about my theory. I'm telling you, Clickteam's sound makes zero sense sometimes. It makes zero sound. It makes sense, I mean, but that's okay. That's good. Alright, I don't know. I'm telling you right now, Clickteam is really weird with the sound effects. Like I said before with the sound button, I was like, okay, it's still gonna be pretty loud at 5, but it was really quiet. Now it's really loud at 5, but alright, whatever. We have that done. But maybe you're like, well, I want to add in a mute button as well, because I don't want them to play sound, you know what I mean? So you could go over to new condition, and if you already have a mute button, then you can just make it so that you go over to user clicks, the mouse, user clicks on an object, your mute button, and then you pause the audio. But I don't have a mute button, so I go over to new condition, the mouse pointer keyboard, the keyboard. Upon pressing a key, and I'll say X, whenever you press X, then you can go over to your sound, right click, sample, pause sample, and then phone guy. So then it'll pause the phone guy no matter what. So then I go up, and I'm like, oh, I want to hear UI die 12 times. So we'll just wait for it to play, just to make this look better. And then, god damn, you can hurry up. Okay, so I'm like, I don't want to hear you talk. Bye. I don't hear him no more. And additionally, have like a dial up sound effect or like a hang up sound effect. You can also play that here. So upon pressing X, you can go like right click, sample, play sample, browse, and then play your what was it saying? Play your dialed up, your hang up sound effects, you know what I mean? And actually that does sound way better than this because it kind of just shuts off whenever I press it, but that will be really good if you had that as well because it makes it sound way better. But additionally, instead of there being a phone guy, or I want there to be a phone guy, but let's say I want there to be some ambience in the back too. I could go right click, sample, play and loop sample, and I could browse from a file. And I'll say I'll play a fan sound effect, because who doesn't like the fan, you know what I mean? Classic fan. So I play the fan sound effect. I want to play it 0 times because I want to play it constantly. And then I also want to set the volume, set sample volume of my fan to, hey, let's say like 25. 25. Let's try it out. Guy. I can hear a sound. I can hear my fan in the back. Also really loud, so I'm also gonna just edit that so it's now at 5 because Clickteam likes to be weird. And then I just load it up. That sounds good. That sounds good. Maybe quieter as well because maybe I just want it to be really subtle. So I want the fans to be played at like what the jack? Want to edit it so maybe it's at volume 2. You know what I mean? Which is literally just like 2 away from being completely mute. As you see, now it's a lot better. It's playing in the back now, and now I have a fan sound effect in there. So we basically got the basics down to that. But let's say I want my cameras to make a sound effect too. So when I flip it up, maybe I want my fan to go mute. I want my camera to go make a sound when I flip it up. Maybe if I click a camera, it plays a sound. Or if I have static here, it also plays a sound. And maybe I just want a bunch of that. So what I want to do for that is I want to go down to my cameras. And let's say we're going to go down to our camera animation, wherever that is. And let's say when I flip it up, I want it to play a sound. So whenever I hover over it, you want to always make sure that you have only one action when event loops, which I already have in because I have it so when I actually hover over it plays a sound effect. Like this. Oh. When I hover over it, it opens up the camera. But, you know, that's also going to be working here. But if you have it so that you have to click the camera button, then you can pretty much just apply the same thing here because it's really easy. But if you have a hover feature for your cameras, just make sure you have only one action when event loops. But if you're just making it so that you have to click on the camera to actually do it, then you're fine. So when the mouse pointer is over the camera bar, I want to go sound, right click, sample, play sample, and then I want to browse for my camera flip sound effect, which it might be a little bugged for some reason. It was really bugged for me before, but it should not be bugged. And I'm going to drag that down there, and then if I flip up my cameras now, now I have a camera, now I have a flip sound for whenever I flip them up and down the camera. So I have that working now, but maybe I want some extra spice too. Maybe I want my fan to go completely mute, and I want my static to play in the background. Well, that's also a really easy fix. You can just go animation camera up is over, and then you can just go to sound, right click, sample, pause sample, fan. But of course, if you actually pause your sample, then you might need to play it again, because if I load up the night and I hear my fan in the background, but then if I flip out my camera, it's paused. But if I flip it back down, it's not playing. We don't want that. We want it to play. So on animation, cam down is over. Then you want to go right click, sample, resume sample, and then your fan. So yeah, that's just the process of it. So it's playing now. You my phone guy. Flip up the camera. It's paused, and then I flip it back down, and now it's playing again. So we have that working as well. But you can also apply that same thing to static as well. So animation cam up is over. I can go right click, sample, and I can say play and loop sample from a file, and I'll have my static in there. I open that, and then I press 0. And additionally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right click. Actually, that might not be a good idea. And obviously, on animation cam down is over, I don't want my static to play, so I'll just go right click, there's samples, pause sample, and then I'll put on my static. So it'll pause my static. And then if I run the frame, and then I flip my camera, there's my static sound effect, and I'll flip it back down, my static doesn't play. And flip it up again, it plays, and then it doesn't. It plays, and then it doesn't. So that also works as well. But for me, my static is really loud. It's a little too loud for me, so I'm gonna go animation cam up is over. Play sample static 0 times. I'll go right click, sample, set sample volume of static, and I'll say 15. I'll set it to 15. And then I run the frame, and I'll see how I like that. So flip the camera, it's a lot quieter, and I like that. And I flip it back down, boom, flip up, static. So we have all of that. Maybe you want it a little quieter, so you can go right click, edit, set volume of sample static to 7, maybe, I don't know, half quieter, I guess. That's a lot quieter. I like that. So we have that done. I'm trying to think what else we could add. Maybe you want to add in like a menu sound effect. So you go back to your menu and you go event editor, start a frame, sound, sample, play and loop sample, like I said before. And then this will be your main menu sound effect. So I go main menu, open, and then I play that continuously. So I set to 0. And then if I load up my menu, now I have menu music as well. You could do that. You could really apply this to a lot of things. You can apply this to whatever you want, however you want it. And honestly, it's just I think it's really cool how much sound you can apply to your FNaF game. And there really isn't a whole lot of sound left that I want to discuss. There is one that I think is actually there's gonna be two that I think are pretty interesting because it's something that I see like literally no one else talk about, and I wish people did talk about more when talking about sound. That being whenever an animatronic is at the door, they'll pound the door before leaving. And additionally, when you actually see the animatronic at the door, with the light button, it'll play like the FNaF one like sound effect. You know what I mean? Um, I wish I could show you guys that, but my editing skills are like dog shit, so I'm not gonna do that. But you know what I mean. You know the FNaF one sound effect. You know the iconic sound effect. And to make it so that you can actually see it when they're at the door, you can go back up to your left light, and where it says left light hallway activation equals 1, and where Bonnie's location is equal to 4, which means he's at the door, you can go sound, right click, sample, play sample from a file, and then you can say, where is it? Animatronic at door sound. I know that's not really specific at all, but if you load it up now, then all you gotta do is Bonnie to show up. So now we gotta wait for Bonnie. But you see how much more this applies now? Because you have a fan playing in the back, your lights play sound now, your camera plays sound effect now. The only thing that doesn't play is actually your camera buttons, but you guys can easily do that for this tutorial. You can do that. So we're just gonna wait for Bonnie to show up. And I know he's gonna show up soon. So we're just gonna play the waiting game for Bonnie. Alright, there he is now. Bonnie is right there. So now we're gonna wait for him to disappear. And then we're going to shine the light to make a sound effect. Or to make the sound effect play. Oh shit, Chica's here. I don't want Chica to jump scare me. Oh, Bonnie's gone, and... Oh, there he is. Close the door. Pretty cool. And then, he's gone. So, that sound effect works too. The only issue with that is it'll play like not infinitely, but anytime you see Bonnie it'll play that sound effect, which if you're happy with that, you're happy with that, but if you're not, then you're gonna have to add more code to it. I'm personally not going to because I believe every time Bonnie did appear at the door in FNaF 1, it did play that sound effect no matter what. But if you're happy with that, you can also apply that for when Chica's at the door, so you can go over to whenever your right light is set to 1 and Chica's at her closest position, you go right click, sample, play sample, and obviously this will be your animatronic at the door sound effect. And I already know it's going to work because I'm better. But then you have that. And additionally, if you want to, you can add a sound effect for when they go away. But you can hear them going away. So they'll knock on the door, they'll pound on it, whatever. So I'm going to go over to my... I think you're actually going to need more code. Or no. I believe we actually go over to... I think it's over here. Yeah, so whenever your light door activation is equal to 1, when Bonnie's aggression equals 0, which means Bonnie is about to leave, then you can go over to sound, right click, sample, play sample, and then we will say, from a file, browse, and I believe pounding. Sounds really good. So I'm going to play that sound effect. But additionally, I'm going to make it so that it'll pan to the left. So I'll say set sample pan of pounding to -100. So it'll play far to the left. And then we got to wait for Bonnie again, but he will show up. Shut up, Scott. I love you. Oh my god, there's Bonnie. Wait for one of these animatronics to show up. It's like, I feel like Sisyphus, whatever his name was, like the dude pushing up the boulder. I feel like him whenever I have to wait for these guys. And really, I could just add in more code that's like, set animatronic to 3 instead of 4, like right before he becomes like... I don't got time for that. I do, but I just don't want to. So Bonnie's here. Oh, he's gone. Bonnie! And then he should play a sound effect. Yup, and he just played that. I thought he wasn't gonna play it for a second, but he did. And I'm not gonna be waiting. I'm not waiting for Monty to show me again. It works. You see it work. It works very well. And you can also apply this to Chica as well. So you go over to Chica and you go right door activation equals 0, and Chica aggression equals 0. You can just drag this down here, but instead change the pan so that is 100 rather than -100. You know what I mean? And it'll also work for her as well. And additionally, forgot to talk about this as well, but jump scares. You can use this for jump scares as well. So on timer event, Bonnie jump scare, you go sound, right click, play sample, and then your jump scare sound effect from your files. I'm not gonna have that. I'm not gonna do that because I don't have a sound effect. But this is just a showcase of what you can do with sound. I didn't want to do like literally everything in like anything you can do, but this is basically the main synopsis of it. You know, you can play a sound effect whenever a counter equals 1. You can make it so that whenever you press a button it plays a sound. You lift up the cameras it plays a sound. You have it up plays a sound. I basically showed you guys the basic synopsis of it, and you can really apply this to anything now. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to see more, let me know. I might do more tutorials in the future if I feel like it, but this is it for now. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys very soon. See you guys.